Good morning, everyone. This is Russell Rucker, and I'm here for another constitutional talk. You know, every once in a while, Hollywood comes up with a great script, a great idea, and if you go back to classic Hollywood, there's a movie called Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and I want to bring up this movie because it has such a good presentation of what a filibuster is. We're so used to needing 60 votes to get through the Senate to avoid a filibuster that they just vote not to shut off debate, but they don't go through the process of a filibuster. And that's what I want to talk about today. You see, Congress is so deadlocked these days between the two political parties that it just can't hardly even function. And so when you get a bill that one side thinks is so important, they talk about suspending the rules of the filibuster, and the filibuster is not really in the Constitution. But let me explain to you what is. And I'm in Article 1, Section 5, Paragraph 2. Each House may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and with a concurrence of 2/3 expel a member. And the first sentence is what's important here. Each House may determine the rules of its proceedings. And this is from textualism and originalism in our constitutional republic. And I want you to understand exactly what a filibuster is. Filibuster is a Senate rule. It really isn't any more than that. I've never really thought it a good idea to change the rules in this manner, to end the filibuster. And if you have a chance to watch Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, watch Jimmy Stewart portray that senator that's determined to get a bill through, while everyone else is trying to obstruct him. This is a very interesting movie and gives you a real good chance. Now, as they discuss removing the filibuster to pass a single bill, you know, that really isn't, in my opinion anyway, the proper way to attain things. But this is where we are today. If we want something passed, we're going to have to eliminate a filibuster to pass it, because Congress will not allow it to pass because the one party wants to obstruct. I mean, that's just simple basis of what's occurring here. But I want you to understand, the filibuster is just a Senate rule. What we have in the Constitution is allowing each branch to write their own rules of the proceedings. Well, it was never thought that this would be that obstructive. But we do have a system in which obstruction can occur routinely. And really, deadlock is not always the enemy. Sometimes deadlock is a great thing, because it means Congress doesn't get anything passed. And sometimes what Congress is passing can become a problem. So obstruction is sometimes your friend. And remember the system in which we live on, where each branch is actually designed to be elected completely differently, and the president is completely separate. If you go over to England, the British Prime Minister is always a member of the party that controls the Parliament. And it's that way by design. If they lose their support, they pass a resolution and force a new election, so that you always have the prime minister in charge. America's different. You can elect an executive completely different from any other branch. technically, you could have someone of a third party as president of the United States, and you could have the branches, the other two parties controlling the other branches. You cannot have that in a parliamentary system. And that's what separates us from so many of the other governments on earth. Now, ending a filibuster, in my opinion, isn't generally a good idea. But it also is not, as one fellow described it this week, a nationalization of the country. You cannot possibly nationalize the country, in other words, controlling all law from the nation's capital. Because states still have rights. You still have state governments. You still have local governments. So this idea that somehow ending the filibuster would nationalize the country, that's not exactly true. What we're talking about is trying to get through a single piece of legislation, not nationalize the country. And that argument falls flat when you look at the 9th and 10th Amendments. And as we go through, maybe I should bring up the 10th for a moment. And the 9th Amendment, the enumeration in the Constitution to certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. And that is the 9th Amendment talking about the natural, basically, it's about natural rights. And then we get to the 10th. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited to it by the states, are reserved to the states respectively and to the people. So in other words, you cannot nationalize the government in that manner just by getting rid of the filibuster, because the power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited to it by the states, are reserved to the states and the people. So it's impossible, absolutely impossible, to nationalize it by getting rid of a Senate rule. In this world of divisive politics, you have both sides trying to sharpen their knives, their political knives, as best as they can to try to seek an advantage over the other party. This is not what our founders intended. No matter whether you're a Democrat or whether you're a Republican, your job in the legislature is to work for the betterment of the people, not your party. And if I was to speak directly to those politicians, I tell them, come on, let's get to work. Let's do your job. The job of representing the people, not your party. Think about that for a few minutes, folks. The filibuster is only a Senate rule. We don't have to be hyper politicized here. What they're actually talking about is going back to what they call a talking filibuster. And if you don't know what that is in practice, go watch James Stewart and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. It's an old black and white. It's a great example, and a better example than I can ever describe. We'll catch you next time, next week, on the next Constitutional Talk. Have a good day, folks. Bye for now.